Okay, first and foremost, congratulations to Luke Kuechly. I hope for the best for him outside of football. Hopefully, he was smart enough to save a huge chunk of his money. I think that's where most professional athletes they fall short after their career is over. They spend their entire playing career spending money, not really saving anything. Hopefully, he's one of those guys that actually saved his money. I wish him the best. I think that this was a smart decision for Luke Kuechly if he didn't have the passion to play anymore. If he didn't have the passion to play anymore, I think it's always smart for anybody to walk away. He's better off than Andrew Luck was, because Andrew Luck had to retire because his body just couldn't take the punishment anymore. But Luke Kuechly, for the most part, have had a pretty successful career. I'm pretty sure this kid will be I'm going to say he's going to be a future Hall of Famer. I won't say first ballot. I'm going to say future Hall of Famer. 7 Pro Bowls in 8 seasons. This dude, he won Defensive Player of the Year. He's been the best linebacker for the past 8 years. Like, his rookie year, I believe he led the league in tackles. This dude he's greatness. And I said this before in another video that there was only one other linebacker that I've witnessed with my eyes that could play at that level. That just seems like they're playing at a different speed than everybody else. And Luke Kuechly is one of those guys besides Ray Lewis. And I just hope that he's making the right decision for himself. I believe he is. Otherwise, I don't think he would have made this decision. He would have, stayed. But, we'll see. Sometimes players, they go away, but they don't stay away for too long.
Question here is this a bad sign for football, Kuechly retiring?
It's good and it's bad.
All right. First of all, I'm going to say this just to get it out the way before I hear everybody else's opinions. This is the only person this should matter to is Luke Kuechly. It shouldn't matter to the fans. It shouldn't matter this was a personal choice for him. I believe he did what he felt was in his best interest. And the only way this could be a bad decision is if Luke Kuechly sees it as a bad decision. I don't think that, the NFL will move on. The NFL will move on. They always have young talent that's just willing to take over the reins. When the best players in the league retire or whatever, the NFL is always in good position to just move on. So I don't think the NFL is going to suffer. Okay? But as long as Luke Kuechly feels like this is the best decision, I think that this is the best decision. Now, I said this before when Andrew Luck retired, but I said this about quarterbacks, but I'm going to broaden this out to everybody. We are going to start seeing a trend. Young players, I'm talking before the age of 30 or at the age of 30 or younger, we're going to start seeing young players retire before they even hit the 10-year mark. We're going to see young players retire a lot more. Before we saw it with, Patrick Willis, Megatron, Chris Borland. Chris Borland was a rising star at the linebacker position in San Fran. But he walked away. I think it was because of injury-related issues, but I'm not going to sit there and go out on a limb on that. But I do remember Chris Borland just walking away. I believe he was only in the league for 2 years. Walked away. Andrew Luck. Now, I kind of made a prediction that I thought Cam within the next 2 seasons was going to be the next one to walk away. Okay, but yeah, man, we're going to see a lot of players before their 10th season in the NFL. We're gonna see them retire. We're going to see a lot more retire.
You're really looking at the dichotomy, the dynamic, really, of the job of football versus the business of football. And I think players right now are running a different mathematical equation in terms of their career. And that's great for football, the business, because you guys have now afforded players like myself and others so much in terms of platform riches that guys can leave the game early. But it's also highlighting the underbelly and the ugly part of football, which is bad for your health. It's occupational.
For the last 80, 90 years, as long as professional football has been around, even college football, high school football, we have seen a lot of devastating injuries to bodies. We have seen some of the greatest athletes fall. We've seen some pretty respectable athletes who, after they retired, fatally, killed themselves, in a sad and dramatic fashion. But this is the aftermath of a career where you're getting fucking hit in the head by a guy 300 pounds, 250, pure muscle, running at you at 20 miles, 15, 20 miles an hour. That's crazy. But like 10 miles an hour, you got some dude running at you, hitting you in the fucking head. But this is the side effect. This is the side effect of what has happened in the past. And I think this is good for players to be able to make their own calls. I think it's good for players to make their own calls. There's nothing wrong with having passion for a game for a few years. Shit, if a player comes into the league, has the passion to play the game for like 5 years, just so he could bankroll that big contract, just so he could pull in that big contract, and then he decides he just wants to walk away, I don't see nothing wrong with it. The league has done its fair share of taking advantage of young kids who don't know any better, don't have any insight into the damage that they're doing to their body. They're being preached, being warriors, dying on the field and all this other shit, like what Jamal Adams said a few years ago, where he said, I want to die on the field. That's the Warriors mentality. That's a stupid way to live. That's a stupid way to live. Because I'm pretty sure if Jamal Adams doesn't have kids now, saying that shit, if he doesn't have kids now, when he does, his mentality is going to change. Like, there are more important things than football. And this is from a fan's perspective, because it took me till I was, 17? 17 for me to actually open up my mind and realize these are real people and not just fucking cartoon characters on my TV that I just watch every Saturday and Sunday. It took me a long time to realize that, and when I finally realized that, I stopped caring so much about the choices they make. I mean, I don't know, part of the game part of the game is that it's art, so it's supposed to reflect some sort of, some aspects of life, and sometimes the human condition can just ooze itself all over professional sports. That's where you see a lot of the relationships between teammates, different relationships between the coaches and players, different relationships between front office, the coaches, front office, the players, the fans and the players, the fans and the coaches. I mean, sometimes you see people like Antonio Brown who completely lost his shit and just decided he's going to do whatever. I mean, or then you'll see some tragic stories like, Aaron Hernandez. Like, the human condition has oozed itself all over the game slowly but surely. And we're seeing more and more. This is why people believe it's a reality TV show and not actual competitive sports. So I don't know, man. Look, if you're going to convince a 20, 21-year-old kid that sacrificing his body for the good of the game is what's best for him, I think that him deciding to walk away when he's 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, him walking away at some point and within that age range, I think that if he's doing it for himself and he believes that's the best for him, I mean, how can this be bad? How can this be a bad thing? And like I said before, the league always survives. It's going to move on. It's going to find new stars. It's going to make new stars.
There's hell to pay as soon as you cross the white lines, in different degrees depending on position. What Luke Kuechly is saying right now is he's run an equation that maybe before his 8-year career and $63.5 million in earnings, that he would have ran through all of those walls. But in the process of running through those walls, having 4 diagnosed concussions, has now come to a realization that his future and what he already has attained from the game is something.
This guy's a Hall of Famer. Look at that, man. 5-time first team All-Pro in 8 seasons. 8 seasons. This guy has, for more than half his career, has been an All-Pro, a first team All-Pro selection. He's a Hall of Famer, man. I don't think he needs a championship to pretty much get him in there. I think he's in there.
That he has to weigh heavy. And that equation changes for every player based on what you have gotten from.
And this is my problem with the NFL Top 100 list. And I'm going to try to find a video where I could do a video. I'm going to try to find a video that I can actually do something on that. Because I don't like that list. Like, you have Randy Moss, you have Larry Fitzgerald, which I have no problem with them being a part of the NFL Top 100. But how do you not have LaDainian Tomlinson, Adrian Peterson? How do you not have... I'm going to do a video on that because I have some issues with some of the selections that they chose not to go with versus the ones that they actually went with. But let's go.
Game and what you want from your life after the game. So respect to Luke Kuechly and respect to NFL for giving us this opportunity to have this luxury such a young time in his career, because there was a day, maybe Schlereth's day or before, where they didn't have that same luxury.
But is this the league, man? Like I hate this Uncle Tom. You gotta just be happy. You gotta thank the league for everything. Is this really the league's doing though? Like, if the league had their choice, okay, man, you got this 5-time All-Pro linebacker who's a stud, who's a main attraction, and he's planning on retiring, 8 years after, he was drafted, and he's still in pretty good football shape, and he's going to leave. Will you let him go? You think the league really wants these players to retire? You think they want them to leave? You think the Colts really wanted Andrew Luck to go? If they could get them to stay somehow, they would. They would. So do you think it's really the league that's affording these guys opportunities to just say, fuck this, I'm leaving? Or is it just we're just in such an open area of just communication with social media and all this other shit where players can voice their opinions. Players pretty much, they force their own rights onto these organizations. I mean, just like what we're seeing in the NBA, where players pretty much have their choice of where they want to play. Like before, these teams used to pretty much handcuff these players to a franchise. Where you're drafted is where you stay. They handcuff these players to the franchise. Now the players have open opportunities to just go wherever the fuck they want or do whatever they want. Is this really the league's doing? Like, I don't want to give them too much credit for that.
And they had to run through that wall just to make sure that they were okay.
I think it's great for the NFL. I think there's nothing but benefit here where you can sit there and say, hey, man, I am at the top of my game. I'm one of the greatest players. I mean, you look at Luke Kuechly and people say, well, he's one of the smartest.
All right, so Mark Schlereth started off saying this was great for the NFL, but his first example of why it's a great thing for the NFL pertained to Luke Kuechly. Is this great for Luke Kuechly or the NFL? Look, I think giving players the freedom to do whatever they want to do because it is their body and they can pretty much do whatever they want to do. So allowing them to do that is a good thing for the NFL. But players make their own decisions. For the most part, players make their own decisions. I mean, I don't think that really has anything to do with the NFL, man. Like I said before, if Kuechly felt like this is what he needed to do and this was right for him, can't nobody else say otherwise. So I'm sorry.
Football players I've ever been around. Luke Kuechly's one of the smartest people I've ever been around. That guy has a skill set, and he's got the ability to do whatever he wants. And the NFL has afforded him the opportunity to make that $63.5 million after 8 years and say, you know what do I want to do? We've never been in a place where we've been more empowered from not only a financial standpoint, but an educational standpoint. I know what I've done to my body from the neck up, specifically from the neck up, most importantly, but also from the neck down. Yeah. And now I have the opportunity to weigh that out. I came in and was a starter my rookie year, made $45 grand. That was in 1989. Right? I mean, you don't have those opportunities. To me, this is a great thing. It should be celebrated. The league should look at something like Luke Kuechly or somebody like Luke Kuechly and celebrate the fact that, hey guys, you can come into this league and you can play for 8 years and you can be set for life and then you can do whatever you want to do. And here's the beauty of Luke Kuechly. When you don't get your identity in what you do for a living, when your identity comes outside of what you do for a living, because if your